Good morning, everybody. This is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It's June the 7th today, and we're looking at Nehemiah chapter 9. In the 24th day of the month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting and sackcloth and earth upon them. And the seed of Israel separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. And they stood up in their place and read in the book of the law of the Lord of God 1/4 of the day, and another 4th part they confessed and worshipped the Lord their God. So for 3 hours they stood and they listened to the scriptures being read, and for another 3 hours they confessed their sin and they bowed on their faces before the Lord. And then the Levites, Jeshua, Kadmiel, Bani, and so on, said, "Stand up and bless the Lord your God for ever and ever, and blessed be thy glorious name, which is exalted above all blessings and praise. Thou, even thou, art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven, the heaven of heavens, with all the host, the earth, and all things that are therein, the seas and all that is in them. And thou preservest them all, and the host of heaven worshippeth thee." And then what they do is they go right through the whole history of the children of Israel. The children of Israel were famous for this. They were famous for going through the history of Israel, and here in these verses we have very much a complete description of the whole of Israel's relationship to their covenant God. And it was good that we might read it and analyze it and come to understand how these covenant people lived and what relationship they were in with their covenant God. And they therefore made a covenant with the Lord. And because of all this, we make a sure covenant, verse 38, and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. So they're making a covenant, they're making an oath that they will serve the Lord. Chapter 10 is a list of all those that signed it. Now these are those that were sealed there. Now those that sealed there were Nehemiah, the Tirshtha, the son of Hahilah, and so on. It's a lot of very difficult names, okay? Now, verse 28, the rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the porters, the singers, the Nethinims, and all they that had separated themselves from the people of the lands unto the Lord their God, their wives, their sons, their daughters, every one having knowledge and having understanding, they clave to their brethren, their nobles, and entered into a curse and an oath to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses the servant of God, and to observe to do all the commandments of the Lord our God, and his judgments and statutes. Now I want us to stop a moment. There are some Christians who say, "Oh, this was a complete waste of time. They were unable to keep the law, and that was it." Well, that's not it. No. These people separated themselves from the people of the land unto the Lord of God. And they separated all of them, every single one of them. So they separated themselves from those that were not pure blood Israelites. And they brought themselves into a thing. They made this oath before the Lord. And their oath was, they entered into a curse and into an oath to walk in God's law, which was given by Moses the servant of God, and to observe and to do all the commandments of the Lord our Lord, and his judgments and statutes, and that we will not give our daughters unto the people of the land, or take their daughters for our sons. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victual on the Sabbath day to sell, We will not buy it from them on the Sabbath day. You see, there were a lot of very practical things that they felt they needed to do to keep the law of God. You see, they even had people walking through the temple on the Sabbath day. They even had people buying and selling on the Sabbath day. They even had people ploughing the fields on the Sabbath day in defiance of the Sabbath law. And they said, no, this has all got to end. This has all got to end. The Sabbath day has got to be kept holy unto the Lord. Now in chapter 11, verse 1, the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem, and the rest of the people also cast lots to bring 1 of 10 to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in other cities. And the people blessed all the men that willingly offered themselves to dwell at Jerusalem. So they took a tithe, they took a poll, and they said, we will cast lots, and 1/10 of all of Judah will live in the city. Most people don't want to live in a city, but these people that were chosen were delighted to live in the city because they knew that they were doing it for the honour of God. And the rest, the 9/10, were able to live in other cities around and about. And then it then lists all the names of the people that were to live in the city. Chapter 12. Verse 1, now these are the priests, the Levites that went up with Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Jeshua. And so there's this long list of all the people, Siriah, Jeremiah, Ezra. You see, this is a great long list of all the people that went up to dwell in the city. These were in the days of Joachim, the son of Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and in the days of Nehemiah the governor and Ezra the priest, the scribe. At the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites out of all their places to bring them to Jerusalem to keep the dedication with gladness, with thanksgiving, with singing, with cymbals, psalteries and harps. And they gathered all the singers together, and the priests and Levites purified themselves, and they purified the people, and they purified the gates, and they purified the wall. Can you believe that? Not only were the priests and Levites ceremonially clean in physical body before the Lord, but they washed the gates, they washed the people, and they even washed the wall. You see, this was truly the holy city. This was a city that was made clean before the Lord. And then the passage goes on. Now verse 43 is my password for today. Beautiful, beautiful thing. Let me read it to you. It says, also that day they offered great sacrifices and rejoiced, for God had made them rejoice with great joy. The wives also and the children rejoiced, so that the joy of Jerusalem was heard even afar off. Wonderful. You see, the joy of the Lord. Was this the joy of Christian salvation? And far from it. No. None of them were saved. None of them were saved. They were in a covenant. They weren't saved. They were in a covenant relationship with God, and they'd been made holy by the priests. They'd made clean in the sight of God. They'd made this oath that they would serve the Lord, that they would keep the Sabbaths, that they would keep all the commandments. And as a result of that, when they were brought into a right relationship with their covenant God, then the joy of the Lord filled their hearts. And then they moved off into worship. Verse 44, and at that time were some appointed over the chambers for the treasures. You see, there was a tremendous amount of simple organization that was necessary. Now, chapter 13, On that day they read in the book of Moses in the audience of people, and therein was found that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our God turned the curse into blessing. Now it came to pass, when they heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. You see, there was a mixed multitude. There was a tremendous amount of people who by origin, by their own personal heritage, were not part of the covenant that the Lord had with Jacob. And so all these people were separated. They wanted to have a pure ethnic heritage. Okay, they wanted to have a pure ethnic heritage because the covenant relationship was only with the children of Israel. Verse 7, and I came to Jerusalem and understood the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of God, and it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber. Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers, and thither brought I again the vessels of the house of God with the meat offering and with frankincense. You see, Tobiah was an evil man, and he had managed to ingratiate himself right into the building of the temple. Nehemiah went in there, and they took the things that belonged to this wicked man, and they cast them out. Verse 11, then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. And verse 14, remember me, O my God, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for the officers thereof. Verse 15, in those days saw I in Jerusalem some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, and also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, who brought in fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not our fathers thus say, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And it came to pass, when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden brought in on the Sabbath day. And the merchants and sellers of all kinds of ware lodged outside of Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them, and said, why lodge ye here about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. And from that time forth they came no more on the Sabbath. And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates and sanctify the Sabbath day. And in those days also I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab, and their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon king of Israel sin by these things? Yet among many nations there was no king like him, who was beloved of his God, and God made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. So these were people. Outlandish means women that were from outside the land. That's the point. They were outlandish. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our God in marrying strange wives? Now, strange doesn't mean that they were peculiar. It means that they were not part of the family of the children of Israel. And one of the sons of Jehoiada and the son of Eliashib, the high priest, whose son-in-law to Sanballat the Horonite. Therefore I chased him from me. Remember them, O my God, because they have defiled the priesthood and the covenant of the priesthood and Levites. Thus cleansed I them from all strangers, and appointed the wards of the priests and Levites, every one in his business, and for the wood offering at times appointed, and for the firstfruits. Remember me, my God, for good. What an amazing passage today. There were all sorts of problems, weren't there, that Nehemiah faced, but he faithfully exerted his office in such a way that the people were cleansed. They were made pure before the Lord. Their families were restored to their true Jewish heritage, and the Sabbath was observed throughout all Jerusalem. A great man, Nehemiah. God bless you all. Look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.